Matthew McConaughey is the star of such hit movies as We Are Marshall, A Time to Kill, and Interstellar. He is a Best Actor Oscar winner for his critically acclaimed starring role in the Dallas Buyers Club. He's also a husband, father, teacher, professor, and even the Minister of Culture for the University of Texas in the city of Austin. And there's been a little talk of him running for governor of Texas. We got to get into that, too. Well, now he can add #1 New York Times best-selling author to a long resume thanks to his new memoir that is just delightful. It's called Greenlights. And on a personal note, I'm pretty sure that he's got a lot more common sense than a whole bunch of folks in Hollywood. We welcome Matthew to the show. Matthew, thank you for joining us. What a pleasure.
Thank you for having me. That was a great introduction. Thank you.
Well, the book is a surprisingly wonderful read, and I think most people will realize this is a very introspective guy, Matthew McConaughey. Is that you all the time, thinking deeply?
Naturally, it is. You know, one of the real surprises, wonderful surprises, actually, in writing the book, which is based on 36 years of journals I've been keeping, is I noticed that at 14 years old, when I started keeping a journal, I am interested in the same subjects at 51 years old that I am now, that I was then at 14. I was always asking the existential questions of, hey, what matters? What are we doing here? What's our relationship in the world? Who am I in it? How can I be my better self tomorrow? What do I want in the long view of life? And I was asking those questions at 14, and I'm still asking them at 51.
Well, I'm glad you are, because they're great questions, and you provide some terrific insights. I tell you, I think your mother may be one of my favorite characters. When I read about her, I think, you know, I married her sister. I'm pretty sure I did. She threw you into the water to teach you to swim. Are you kidding me? She really did that?
Absolutely, on the Llano River. And it was, you know, I mean, I'm guessing she knew I had the ability, but I'm not sure. But she threw me in and said, and the rapids were coming, and she goes, you know, well, swim or go over the edge. And the end of the story is I swam and made it to the bank. So it did work.
Well, I'm glad it did, because we would have missed a heck of a movie career had she not guessed that right or failed to jump in. Heck, she might have been doing that on purpose. And, you know, I mean, I've been there with my own children sometimes thinking, okay, I'm going to throw you in. I don't know if you can swim or not, but I may not care. It happens.
Yeah, it worked out. I'm glad it did, too.
Speaking of kids, you and your wife do something that I find so admirable. When you go on a movie shoot, your kids go with you. You don't disappear for weeks at a time. Explain why that is important to you and your wife, Camilla. Yes,
sir. So before we had kids, that was Camilla's one caveat. She came to me because she'd seen me in my work. She'd gone with me, had children, and I go all over the world. My work takes me everywhere. She goes, okay. And I remember putting 2 hands on my shoulders. She goes, one deal. If we have for us to have children, if you go, we go. And I remember in my one ear, I heard one side of myself saying, wait a minute, when I go to work, I live alone in my Airstream. It's just me and my dog. I need my privacy. And just as I'm thinking that, in the other ear, I hear my mother, who wasn't literally there, but I hear her going, you nod your head and you say, yes, ma'am. And I said, yes, ma'am. And it was because, you know, I interviewed quite a few men, fathers, in my business that were older. I won't share their names, but they were older, successful actors who have children. And I interviewed quite a few and said, what did you do? You had children when you went away to work. They all said, well, it was always about, do you choose your friends or do you choose being with your dad? And all of these men chose the first. They said, I'll go to work and I'll leave my kids at home. And every one of them says they could do it again. They would do it different. They would have brought their kids with. They all regretted the fact that they let their kids stay home when they went away to work.
I would say your wife is a very, very wise woman, and I hope you tell her often.
Try to. I did just this morning.
Do you have a favorite movie role? I mean, you've done dozens and dozens of them, all over the genre, everything from comedies to very, very serious dramas. Is there something that when you think about it, you just sit back with a big smile on your face and say, gosh, I love doing that?
I do, and it's the one we were speaking of briefly offline before the interview started, Mud. That movie reminded me of where I grew up. It reminded me of my summers. If you read in the book, that treehouse, that 13-story treehouse I built in that summer in 79, that was my boat in the tree that's in mud. It's also the film that, my father passed away in 1992. But while making the film and since making Mud, it's still the film that I've had dreams of him coming up. It's the one that he would have come up to me at 12 years old and put an arm around me. Hey, little buddy, you ever seen this movie Mud? And I'd have gone, no, sir. And I was like, oh, it's a good one. Let's go see it. It's the one he would have wanted to take me to the theater to see with him.
That is a beautiful, beautiful reflection. Something I learned in the book, and I think it's something everybody will find fascinating, is the signature Matthew McConaughey phrase, all right, all right, all right, was actually the first words you ever spoke on film. How'd that happen?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So I get called to set on a film called Dazed and Confused. And I was not supposed to work this night. The character that I was playing, Wooderson, had 3 lines, and none of those 3 lines were in the scene that they were shooting that night. I was doing a hair and makeup wardrobe test. You do your hair and makeup, the director comes off the set, has a look at you, says, yeah, I like this, change this, and then you say goodbye, and you come back later the next week when it is time to work. Well, that's what I was doing this night. I come out, my hair and makeup wardrobe test, the director, Richard Linklater, walks up to me on the street, looks me up and down, yeah, this is great, Wooderson. And all of a sudden, as we're about to say bye, he says, hey, Wooderson, you think Wooderson's the kind of guy that's been with the typical good-looking chicks in school? Do you think he'd maybe be interested in the redheaded intellectual? And I go, well, sure, Wooderson likes all kind of girls. And he goes, well, this girl, Cynthia Ribisi, she's playing the redheaded intellectual in our movie. She's over here in the car. She's got her nerdy friends in the back seat. Maybe you want to pull up and try and pick her up? And I said, sure. Well, next thing I know, I'm in the car, and we're about to shoot a scene. I have a lavalier mic on me, and I'm about to pull up and go try to pick up the redheaded intellectual, and there's not a word scripted. And what I did is I went through my mind 3 things that my character had, and it was my car, it was a form of partying over here, and it was rock and roll. And as I went through those 3 things that my character had at the moment, I heard action. And I looked up at the Marissa Ribisi and Cynthia character, the redheaded intellectual, and in my mind I said, well, that's the 4th thing that my character's about. I got 3 out of 4. Put it in drive, pulled out. All right, all right, all right. So it was 3 affirmations of the 3 things that my character had on the way to go get the 4th.
And now it is the signature statement of Matthew McConaughey. Hey, before we close out, I got to talk to you about something that I'm so impressed with. You and your wife delivered 110,000 masks to rural hospitals all over Texas, driving them around in a pickup truck.
Yes. Just
because you wanted to. I mean, I thought that was a remarkable gesture of generosity and kindness on your part.
Well, it's even better than I do. It was the wild, wild west then. We were all figuring it out. Even the private sector, everyone was trying to get organized. And anything that even private citizens could do to help, and we were in a position to help. And Ford helped give us a bunch of the masks. Camilla ordered them. We found out which rural hospitals in Texas needed them. We were like, it's kind of one of those times where if you want to get it done, start the engine and let's go. And we'll get there first. And so it was a time where a lot of people were putting all hands on deck to go out and help. So we just went out. We had a lot of help with people dispatching them to the right hospitals and the right people at the right time.
Well, it's a fantastic thing that you did, and not for publicity, not for show, but to meet a need. And I think it's what comes through so very clearly in your book. There's no doubt as to why it is a New York Times #1 bestseller. I hope people will get it. It is a great book and a great gift for Christmas. And even if they aren't Matthew McConaughey hardcore fans, they will be after reading the book Greenlights. Matthew, thank you for joining us. What a delight to get to visit with you. And thanks for just the insights from the book Greenlights.
I appreciate it. And I look forward to doing it next time in person, sir.
Well, so does all of our staff. They hope that'll happen. Greenlights is a New York Times #1 bestseller. It's available right now. And be sure to follow Matthew on social media.